So I want to introduce you to Nikki today. Nikki is at, can everyone please turn off their mics? That would be great, thank you. Nikki is with Just2Easy and she's going to do the introductory training. We've got 3 sessions and each session will be different. So if you are here today, then you'll come back next week and you'll find out something new, and you'll come back the week after and you'll find out more things as well. And that's because if you've gone into Just2Easy, you'll have seen that there's such a vast number of tools within it. And it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first go on there. So Nikki's going to take us through the main bits and pieces during these 3 sessions. And you'll see how you can use it, and then hopefully that'll stop you feeling so overwhelmed and you'll really enjoy using it and you'll think, oh yeah, this is fab. So we have got 2 years to use this for free, which is wonderful, really wonderful. It really lets us get our teeth into it and find out if you'll be wanting to continue with using it in your schools after that 2 years as well. Now I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to mention, Nikki, or if I'll just hand over to you and let you get started.
I don't think so. I think I can ask you questions if I come up against them throughout the training.
Perfect.
So yeah,
Jim and I'll keep an eye on the chat as well, so we will can always answer them.
Fab. All right, that's great. Thank you very much, Julia. As Julia said, my name is Nikki Kimball. I'm one of the educational consultants here at Just2Easy. I am winging my way live from Belfast, where we are doing a lot of training in Northern Ireland at the moment. So I'm sorry if it's a bit echoey, but I am in a training room on my own, and it seems to be quite echoey. Now there's nobody else in here. So we are going to be doing an introductory training today, part of a 3-part series. So today's session really is the introduction to the basics. Just a bit of session housekeeping before I tell you exactly what we're going to be looking at. It is a scheduled 5 p.m. finish, so I'm going to try and be quite strict because I know 5 p.m.'s, you've got places to go, people to see. Questions can be asked along the way in the chat. Julia and Jim are in the background, very able to answer any questions that you might have. Anything that they can't answer, they can either relay to me, or we will answer in the Q&A session that I've planned at the end of the training. So we are running we're following up with training later in the year. So we are doing a session, I think, off the top of my head, in 2 weeks' time. I've got it at the end of my PowerPoint. And then a 3rd session. But we're also running a huge amount of central training that is completely free to you guys to access. So I am going to point you in that direction as well. So rest assured, you will be supported this year as you try and embed the tools into your curriculum. So in today's session, content-wise, we're going to look at what is Just2Easy. So I'm going to give you a vast sort of introduction into what the tools are, what we do, how you access it. I'm going to run a tools and activity session. So I'm going to give you some quick win activity ideas that you can do with your children. I'm going to try and give sort of an across the school options for you. So we're going to look both at JIT and J2E5. So we're covering the early end of primary and also the later end of primary. So hopefully all of you will have at least one activity that you can take away. I'm going to showcase to you how your students can access the site easily using our QR code logins. I'm also going to show you how to share and monitor content that's made within Just2Easy. So how you're going to access your pupil content, how you're going to share content with your pupils, and the workflow side of things. So that's quite boring, but unfortunately a bit of a necessary evil. Because once you can do that, then you really get the best out of the site. I'm also going to point in the direction of the resource library, and hopefully we will have enough time for J2Webby. If I don't get through it, I will offer it in the next session. And as I said, Q&A session at the end, and where you can access further support, including training and our YouTube channel. So a very busy session. Right, without further ado, what is Just2Easy? So I think by the sounds of it, some of you guys have had a bit of a play over the summer. You've been exploring. It's a learning platform. not like the learning platforms of 2009, showing my age now, but I remember those coming in, which were horrific. This is designed specifically for students, for younger learners, and for teaching and learning. So unlike other systems that are shoehorned into education, that are designed for business and then shoehorned into education, which I shall refrain from naming, but I think we all know which ones I'm talking about. This one is designed specifically for children to use, and it's designed to be easy to use. It's icon based generally, so there's not a lot of written words on the site, and it's very intuitive for children to use. Any new tools that we design, we want our students to be able to create, share, and learn. And the tools are designed to be cross-curricular, so you can deliver things like your science and your maths. And in fact, there are tools that lend themselves very well, such as our J2 data, our branching databases for your maths curriculum or your science curriculum, databases themselves. Great for your maths curriculum. We've got literacy tools, we've got all sorts. We've also got accessibility tools. Sorry, got the cleaners coming in. It's okay. We've got accessibility tools right across the school. So for anybody that might need it, we've got things like text to speech and speech to text and word lists. I'm going to try and go through most of those today, but again, we might revisit those later in the series. So these are some of the tools that we have available. We're not going to get through them all today, but we're very much going to focus on JIT and J2E5 today. We may well look at Webby and the library. In the next session, we'll be looking at homework, parent portal, J2 message, J2 stars and Spellblast, just to whet your appetite for the next session. Now, in terms of accessing Just2Easy, it can be done via any internet networked device. So as long as you've got a device with an internet connection and an internet browser, you can access your site and your files. So it's very important. So that could be an iPhone, an iPad, a Chromebook, Surface Pro, a MacBook, whatever you've got, you can access it. And that's important for children that are accessing it at home as well. So if you are thinking about bridging that home school link, that is an option for you. The tools are built around a drag and drop cloud-based storage area with unlimited capacity. Now that's called our My Files area. So it's much like your OneDrive or a Google Drive. Our version is called My Files. So every user will have a My Files area. And again, that has unlimited capacity. So you don't need to delete things out to make space for other things. Any files that you create within your Just2Easy account will save into My Files. And any of those files can be shared and collaborated with others. So whether that was with pupils, with colleagues, with classes as a whole class, or even as a whole school, you can also share externally. So if you are wanting to share, for example, maybe important reports with external professionals, thinking things like speech and language therapists or educational psychologists, you can do that through the site, you can share that. Now, specifically for you guys in Aberdeenshire, how can you access Just2Easy? So there are two different ways. As I said earlier, it's any device, anywhere, but you will access using your Glow account. So you can access us through Glow. So you will log in and we are found on the front page. All children will be preloaded and sorted into their registration classes. So you can access it there. The other way that you can access it is actually to go to j2e.com, and we have added a button specifically for you guys. It's the RM Unify button. So you can click on that, then use your Glow credentials to log in, and that will take you directly to Just2Easy. So for those of you that are brand new to the site, this is what our launchpad looks like. So we have lots and lots of different tools. Some of them may be more appropriate for the year group that you're working in than others. And there are ways to streamline this view if you wanted to, which we'll revisit in session 3. So this is the Launchpad, and we have our My Files area here. We've got J2E5 and JIT that we're going to have a look at today. Right. Now, the other tool to sort of point in the direction of is our help tile, and that can be found here. So if you are wondering about how to use any of our tools, there are articles and videos within that tile. So you can watch videos back and work out how to use tools if you want to get ahead of the game. So that is there for your convenience. I will also showcase to you our YouTube channel because I think that's quite a wealth of knowledge as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase you just a nice activity that if I was back in the classroom again, it's been a long time since I left a classroom, but if I was back in a classroom, this is something that I would do with my probably sort of year, I'm thinking P2, P3, P4, although it is based on pollination, this particular one. So I think that doesn't feature until quite later on in the science curriculum, but we'll gloss over that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this animation. And I'm going to use JIT to create a background image. And I'm going to save that, and I'm going to use that background image to create an animation. So I'm going to show you quickly how to do this. So you can see our little bee is flying from flower to flower, pollinating the flowers. Okay, so again, those cross-curricular links are in there, as well as your developing ICT skills. So to do this, I am going to start from the beginning. I'm going to load JIT from my Launchpad, which is here. So I'm going to click JIT, and that is going to open up. Now, JIT is a wonderful tool, and in fact, it's 8 tools within the same area. So it is Just2Easy Infant Toolkit. Please don't discount it for sort of further up the school. It's still appropriate for your P4s, P5s. Certainly things like branch and animate will still be appropriate. It opens within Write. So just to go over the various tools within JIT, there is Write. Now this is the beginnings of word processing. So teaching your children to type, you've got your different fonts. You've also got word lists within Write, which we can listen to any of these words. You've got speech to text here, so your children can dictate certain pieces of work. So if they really struggle with their written language, they can dictate. And they've also got text to speech. So once they have written something on the page, they can highlight it to say the whole paragraph. So that's Write. We're not going to look at it today, but certainly have a look at that. Paint, we're going to have a look at in a minute. Turtle, I will just showcase quickly because this is the beginnings of coding. Great for your directional language and your computational thinking. We've got some templates that we can choose. This is the Big Bad Wolf, and we can use these instructional buttons here. So we could do pen down, and then we can make our character, our sprite, move around our page. So you'll see here our instructions or our algorithms have built up into an amount of code. And what we can do is we can debug that code. So I can play that, see what it looks like. Does it work? So you've got that opportunity for discussion and problem solving. And actually what they can do is they can start manipulating some of these algorithms, reorganizing them, seeing that didn't work. That was the worst thing I could have done. So I can move that right further down. Let's put it there instead and press play. And there we go. So that's moving a bit better. So that's Turtle. Have a look. It's got a simple and an advanced version. Chart is all around charting, creating charts. You've got different chart types: pie chart, bar chart, line chart. Pictogram does exactly what it says on the tin. It's all about pictograms. You've got your templates and you can create your own. You can draw into these boxes if you wanted to. Animate, stop frame animation, we're going to have a look at that. Branching database, so that's what branch is. It's all around branching databases, classifying data, great for your maths curriculum further up the school. In the English curriculum, I think it's year 4 maths, so I presume it would be sort of P3, P4, no, P4, P5 in Scotland, but I'm sure there's some maths coordinator out there probably shouting at me saying it's in a different year. It's probably there somewhere. So that's about, you know, having 4 different animals, and you use questions to sort that data. So can I fly? And you drag the characters that can't and the characters that can. And then mix. So this is an ebook creator. We're going to have a look at this in session 3. Fantastic tool. We'll look at it in another session. So we're going to create a painting. So I'm going to showcase this to you now. I want to create my pollination painting. Now I've got various different backgrounds that I can choose from. There are also seasonal ones as you scroll further down towards the bottom. It's also worth pointing out that you're not restricted to just these backgrounds. You can choose your own background. So when I click pictures, that will take me into my files area. I can do shared files. I can do a web search for example, I could look for a garden, for example. And as soon as I click on that, that will add that into that particular painting, so I can draw over the top. One of my favourite uses of this, actually importing a photograph, is for children to take a selfie. So you do have the option there to take a picture, to take a selfie, and then to draw over themselves to turn themselves into superheroes. So it's a really nice activity for some of your younger students if you've got a superheroes theme topic. But I'm going to stick with my pollination plan. So because I've loaded up my park background, it will open up a relevant clip art. So we are going to focus on the clip art, but just to point out, within Paint, there's too many P's in that sentence, you do have the various brush options here for drawing. You've also got the texture tool, so we could add different textures. So we could add some grass or some bark or some brickwork. And you've also got 11 preset colours, but you've also got this colour wheel here. So it's a great way of developing skills with your students. You start off with the 11 preset colours and develop it as they go further at the school and sort of broaden those skills. But as I said, we're going to stick with our clip art library. So I want to find my bee, which luckily he's just there. He, she, they. And I'm going to make my, in fact, no, I'm not adding my bee. My bee, I'm going to add in my animation. So ignore me. I'm not adding my bee. I want to choose some flowers. So I'm going to press the word there, and I am going to, these are our different clip art libraries. I'm going to find the plants library here. So now I can select a nice flower to add. So there we go. I'm going to add this lovely pink flower and make it a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to stamp that onto my picture. Now I can use these arrows on either side, so I don't have to keep opening that library. So I can flick through and see what the other clip art looks like. I might find a blue one. There we go, purple. So I want those flowers. I can also do things like, let's make our sun have some nice rays coming out of it. And I might look for a tree to put in the background. This might take me a while. Here we go. There's the tree. So let's make that a lot bigger. And I'm going to pop my tree. So I'm going to click on my tree and I'm going to add that in the background. There we go. Okay, so I've adjusted my background. So to save this, I can press here. Now I'm going to rename that. So I'm going to say garden. There we go, and press save. Now that has saved as a working file, so I could go back and edit that. Now if I want to use that as a background in my animation, I need to save it as a picture. So I'm just going to zoom in on this button here. I'm going to press this button, which is the Save as Image button. So that is going to save that as an image that I can then import into animation. So that's Paint. That's how quick and easy it is to use. You could use this from nursery class all the way up to your P7s. So now I'm going to open up Animate, and I'm going to load in that image that we've just created. So this opens the same as it did with Paint. We've got our clip art images. But I'm going to go to pictures instead, and my image isn't there because I didn't press my save as image. There we go. Let's try it again. So I'll go back to animate, go back to my pictures, and there's my picture. So I can click that, and there is our picture that we have just saved. So now, for anyone that hasn't done any animation, it's one of my favourite things to teach as a ICT teacher. Loved it. It's got so many cross-curricular links. And the concept is, it is a lot of photographs, pictures, with ever so slight changes within each frame. So each picture is called a frame. So you'll notice I've got 5 frames along the bottom. So we're going to add a character, which is our bee, and we're going to make our character move ever so slightly with every frame. So to do that, I'm going to find my bee, and my bee is in the Mini Beast. There we go, clip art library. So this works exactly the same as your paint. So your children will learn through that kind of consistency and the familiarity of interface that they can navigate. Once they can navigate paint, they can navigate animate. And I'm going to make my bee much smaller, not that small. There we go. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to stamp that on the page. So that is on frame 1. I'm then going to click on frame 2. And you'll notice I've got a little ghost bee. Now that's actually a technical term, is onion skinning. I really had to think about that. Is onion skinning. So it gives a little ghost bee. So that shows you where your character was in the previous frame, and it really helps you to align where you want to place your character in the next frame. So you want it to kind of be a little bit off center to that ghost bee or the onion skinning, but to have moved slightly. So we're going to do that process again. We're going to stamp. We're going to click on the next frame, stamp slightly to the side, click on the next frame, stamp slightly to the side, click on the next frame, and stamp to the side. Then, once you run out of frames, you're just going to click that green plus and follow that same process. So you're going to stamp your bee slightly to the side, click on the green plus, stamp. I don't know why it keeps coming up with that, but it is stamp. There we go. You might need to scroll across. And just keep going. Now, this process is probably not for the impatient. It is quite a long, laborious, sometimes boring process. But it's one of those great digital processes that the students pick up very quickly, and they can learn to problem solve it. So how I would teach this is to get them to explore Animate. Don't show them how to use it. Get them to explore it and try and use it. And then get them to fine tune those techniques. And I can guarantee what they will the first thing they will do is they will start stamping their character up here. In the next frame, he'll be down here. In the next frame, he'll be up here and then down here. And get them to play it back, and it will look horrendous. And then get them to fine tune it. It's much like coding. Just get them to debug, problem solve, figure out how can I improve. Okay. And that's it. That's how we create our animation. So I'm going to press play, and there's my lovely bee going from flower to flower. So quite quickly, even though I've only got about 10 frames there, I've got a nice little animation that I can add in. Now, I've got examples of variations of that before that. I'm just going to pinpoint that you've got your save button. So that saves as a working file. So if you do want to have this over 2, 3, or 4 lessons, you can click save. Once you are done with the animation, you can export, and that is the save as GIF button. So what that will do, if I just press that and show you, it will save as a lovely little animation. So this is my files. There is my garden. I didn't save that as an animation, but there is that GIF. So that is what the animation will look like with my bee moving around. Now, unfortunately, that is a set size. I can't make that really much bigger. I can zoom in, but I can't make that frame much bigger, unfortunately. So that is how we would save an animation. And here are just some ideas that we have. So this is a lovely conversation, so great for supporting your social, emotional, mental health citizenship, whatever other name it comes under these days, about friendship. This is a brilliant example of using it in a cross-curricular way. So this is animating the water cycle as part of science. And this one is around music. Okay, so 3 very nice ideas for you there. So that was JIT Paint and JIT Animate. We are going to talk about the workflow side of things. So this is a bit boring and heavy, but as I said earlier, necessary evil, I'm afraid. So we're going to talk about how to add things into My Files, how to share them with your students, how your pupils can access that shared content, and then how you can access the content that the pupils then create themselves. And in fact, I've been very out of practice. You can tell I haven't done a webinar in a few months. I normally log in as a pupil, so I'm just going to quickly log in as my demo pupil. And there we go. So that's my pupil account ready to go. So I'm just going to come out of that animation. There we go. Okay. So My Files is here. And as you can see, this is all the content that I've created today. And I've got some content that I might want to share with my students. So for example, I've got this pictogram here. So I might want them to have a think about this pictogram and discuss this pictogram. Okay, so to share that with my students, now don't forget, don't have to just share with students. This could be planning that I want to share with a colleague. This could be a nursery observation that I want to share with a subject lead, for example. It could be anyone in school, but I am going to showcase how to share this with a pupil. And to share it, I'm going to press this green circle with a white eye. And when I press that, I've got lots of different options here. Okay, so I've got the option to share, and I'm going to click that. And that's going to open up this share dialog box. So I won't worry about this top bit, really. But I am going to showcase to you this shared with. So we can type users. So for example, I know that I've got a teacher called Mary, so I can add Mary and just hit enter, and that will add her in. Now, maybe that you don't know, or you don't know the set out of your usernames, in which case you can use this drop down menu. So this little sort of 2 arrow box, and that's going to show you your registration class. So that's the class that you are assigned to. Teaching classes. Now, I'm not going to show you how to set up teaching classes. I will do that. I can't remember which session, but either 2 or 3. So that is smaller groups of students. So that's things like your table groups, your literacy group 1, 2, and 3, or your SEND group, or your chess group, or your school council. Okay, so it's smaller groups of students. Individual users. So you could share this with 1 teacher or 1 user or 1 child. And then all classes within school. So you can share across classes that aren't your classes. Now I'm going to share that with class 1 because that is my demo class that hasn't shared. There we go. And it will share immediately. So you can see there it is shared. Now, if I share something and I either have shared by mistake or I want to remove those permissions at a later date, all I have to do is just press that cross there. So I'm going to remove Mary, and that will remove access for Mary. She won't be able to access that. Even if she'd previously been able to access that, she won't be able to access that any longer. So that is how you share content with your students. Now, your students will be able to access that file, and to access that, they go through the shared files area. So this is Lottie's account. She is in my class 1. And I say to her, for example, I have shared class, I've shared a pictogram with you. I'd like you to have a look at it. Okay, so I can click on shared files. And then what I would recommend your students do is tick this box called list files, because that is going to show them all of the pieces of work that have been shared with them, no matter how or the method. Because you'll notice there's 3 different files. Generally, it'll be via the class. So that's been, if it's shared by a teacher for the whole class, that is by a teacher for the whole school, and that's by a teacher just for Lottie individually. So it just makes it a bit easier. Just tick list files. And there is that pictogram. And she can open that. She can have a look at it. She could edit it. She can take some of these away. So she could maybe debug it and input the data. You could have shared a blank pictogram. So let's edit this and maybe say, let's add in another animal. So let's go for a pet, I don't know, chicken, for example. Let's add, got a live a live demo here. Let's try this. There we go. Add a box, add my chicken, and I can stamp that chicken in there. I can change that label to chicken and change that pictogram. So there we go. So now Lottie's finished her work and she can click save. Now that's going to save into her My File. So if I open up her My Files area, there is that shared template. Her edited version has saved into her My File, so she can access that. So you can see this is Lottie's file here. Now I'm going to go back to my teacher account. So that is adding things into My Files as a teacher, sharing them with a pupil, the pupil accessing the shared content, and the pupil saving their content. So then as a teacher, I told you it was hard work. As a teacher, how can you access your pupil content? Well, now that's done through the pupil files area. So you'll have a button here when you're in My Files. There is also a button off the launch pad. So there we have our pupil files area. Now this is great because it gives you an over-the-shoulder view of every single student in class, in school. Okay, so you will have the option to see all classes if you want, which is great if you're from a small school. If you're in a five-form entry school, that can be a bit overwhelming. So you can streamline that to just show the classes that you are in. So my classes, so you have that option. So I'm going to look at class 1. And you can see how many files these students have created. So Lottie is my demo pupil. She has 176. So I can look at Lottie's file, and there is that pictogram that Lottie has created. I can open it up. I can look at it in depth. I can see any mistakes that she's made. So what's nice at this point is I can actually offer up some feedback. It's great for your assessment for learning, great if you've got some in-depth questioning, maybe you're offering some improvements that she could put in, maybe it's 2 stars and a wish, you want her to reflect on things, and that can be done through the learning conversation. So you can see as I hover over every piece of work, I get this speech bubble. So I'm going to click on that. And this is a two-way dialogue now. So I could say, this is a great pictogram. I'm going to ask her a question. So I'm going to say, how many dogs were owned by your classmates? Okay. I'm checking on her knowledge now. Does she understand what she's created? Does she understand what the data means? So that's a two-way dialogue. So Lottie will get a notification. So just to flick back to Lottie's account, just so you can see, and I'm going to close down those tabs and I'm just going to refresh that page. So you'll see that My Files has a number 5 on it at the moment, and it's gone up to 6. So that's another learning conversation that Lottie needs to look at. And you'll notice when she opens up her My Files, that is in red. I can open that up, and there is that question that we've asked her. So she can close that down. She could say, right, I'm going to count that. That's 4 dogs. And then she can type 4, and that comes back to me. Now, the other thing that she can do, she can just do a thumbs up. She can record some audio. So it may be that Lottie's writing skills aren't up to par, or she just wants to record it. She can take photographs, or you can take photographs as a teacher. So that's great for capturing maybe traditional evidence. So maybe they've done some rough work before they've done some online version. You can take a photograph, and you can also upload files that are linked to those particular pieces of work. So that might be a success criteria. It might be self-review document, anything. Okay. So that is the workflow side of things. Then the very last thing, before we go back to looking at what the tools can do, we can add progression statements. So I'm going to click on this star here. So I want to tag this particular piece of work against a progression framework. Now we have the curriculum of excellence loaded into this. It should automatically open up the curriculum of excellence for you guys. Now, because I'm a consultant, that's why I've got rising stars and I have all these different curriculi loaded. So I can open that up. So that should open automatically. And then you will have the various different curriculi. So I'm going to look for technologies, and I'm going to say, right, okay, well, that has hit. I mean, it hasn't, but just for argument's sake, I'm going to say it hit those 2 targets. And then all I do is just X out of there. I do have to go back into Lottie's file. There we go. And there are those progression statements. Now I can, as I scroll down, I can see the different statements. In fact, I'm going to just keep going until I find. I'm trying to find a progression statement that's been marked multiple times. Here we go. So this is a good example. Northern Ireland curriculum, but principle would be the same. You can see there's a number 3 here instead of a number 1. I can click that number 3, and that's going to show me the different pieces of work that have been hit by that target. Yeah, that's right. How many pieces of work have achieved that target? So you can then click on those pieces of work and it will take you to look at the rainforest. So you know whether they're secure. So this is a great middle management tool, especially ICT leads or subject leads. You can go in and make sure that they are secure at those levels. Okay. So that's the hard bit done. So we've looked at workflow. We've looked at how to share work from your My Files to shared files, how people can access content through shared files and save it into their My Files, and then how you as a teacher can access content within a pupil's file. We've also looked at how to offer learning conversations and to how to track progress. You can tell this is the 5th session I've delivered today, can't you? My brain's not working. How to track progress through J2 Review. Right. Dashboard. I'm just going to quickly showcase this because this offers the opportunity to create QR codes for your students to log in with. So the dashboard is the admin area, so only teachers will have access to this. And if you're not confident with settings, that kind of thing, I would avoid this altogether. This may be an ICT lead area only, but I'm going to leave that up to you. So just to showcase this to you, and in fact, I'm just going to close some of these screens down. There we go. So the dashboard is here. It's also worth pointing out, this is where you would set up your parent portal for those of you that are interested in the parent portal. We will be looking at that in the 2nd session, and that is a manual add within the parents tab where parents are invited. You have to manually add parent emails into that area. Okay, there is a video on how the parent portal works on YouTube if you want to see that in action sooner than the next session. But QR codes, they can be generated through both the classes area and also the managed users area. And it allows you to have QR codes for students to scan, and it logs them straight in. So no need for usernames, no need for passwords, which is generally music for the foundation stage and P1, P2 teachers' ears. I've made some teachers' days this week, let's put it that way. So to generate the QR codes for my classes, all I need to do is just press this button here. So I'm just going to zoom in just so you can see this little QR code button. That's going to prompt me to select a class. So you would then select your class out of the list. And then we've got two different options. Now, generally the login codes on this side are for the younger end of the school. So your foundation stage, P1, P2, P3, P4. And the create a class code, I generally say those are the ones that are mature enough to cope with a password and to be able to choose their name out of a list. So I've taught some year 6 classes that probably wouldn't have ticked those boxes. So it really depends on your personal preference as a teacher, which option you choose here. So the login codes, I'm just going to showcase these to you. These are personal, permanent, and printable. So each child would have their own copy of this. So you can print, so it would come up as a PDF and print out. Then you just chop it up and laminate it if you want to. There we go. When they scan this, it logs them straight into their account. No faffing, no password, nothing. Okay. So that is a great option for younger students. Now, the other version is our class code, which is here. So this version you would have up on your screen, on your interactive whiteboard or your panel, or even on your laptop screen, and students can take turns to come up to the screen wherever it is showing and they scan it. So for anybody, I've met a few people today that have never seen a QR code, and I sometimes take it for granted that people know what QR codes are. So I'm sorry if I'm teaching grandma to suck eggs, but these are just scannable links. So to access these, you would open the camera app on whatever device it is that you're using. So be that a Chromebook, a laptop, as long as it's got a camera on it, this will work. So an iPad, an iPhone. You would scan this, and at this point you would need a password. So they do need to know their Glow password, and they choose their name out of a list, use their password, and then that will log them in. So those are the two variations of our QR codes for logging in. Okay, so those are found through Dashboard. Again, there's a video on YouTube, so I know I went through that a little bit quickly, but please have a look. Right, I'm going to showcase to you J2E5. Now I'm going to do this very quickly, but I've also got some content in the library that will possibly help you with this. Okay, so J2E5 is like a digital piece of paper. I think some people are put off by the name because it's not very apparent what it does, but actually my presentation's created in J2E5. So just to show you, I'm going to go to the edit mode. I can add in pictures, I've added in shapes, I've added in logos, text. That's just an image that our graphic designer created. You can add links in, embed videos, add sounds, add shapes, add word lists for students that need it, text to speech, speech to text. There is everything in here. Okay. So I'm going back to view now. So just to show you, this is a version that you could create. So this is the Titanic. Again, great cross-curricular use. So this was a stop frame animation that was created in JIT. I've searched for images about Titanic. They have researched facts, rewritten them in their own language. They've added titles. This is a chart created in database. And it should have been a multi-page document, but it's not. So that's a one-page document. So just to show you how that was done, I'm going to open up J2E5, which is here. This lovely red tile. It opens in portrait. So first of all, your page options are along the bottom. So we can rotate our page. We can change our page color. So I can tick this, and my page colors are down here along the right hand side. So that is for changing text color, shape color. The color's always in the same place. So we've got all sorts of colors. Now I was an SEND teacher for a long time, so my head is always thinking about how can I make this accessible and inclusive. This is a great tool to teach children with dyslexia. It's very common knowledge that best dyslexia practice is that students should be able to have potentially a different coloured page if they need it, and they may have a personal preference for that. So this is where you would teach those children how to change their J2E5 page background. So there we go, I've got a lovely pastel green. So they've got the autonomy to be able to do that. Doesn't single them out. Don't have to have a plastic overlay on their work or different coloured pages that all the other children can see that they're different. So that's just a really nice thing. So that's changed my page background. I've also got things like grids and paper backgrounds. I personally hate the paper backgrounds, but you might like them. The children love them. It's just like the PowerPoint page backgrounds. They just seem to think they're the best thing ever. Right, adding text. I can click anywhere on this page. I'm going to stick with the Titanic because I can see the Titanic behind me. Not the actual Titanic, the Titanic Museum. Obviously, I can't see the Titanic. So to change the size of that, I'm going to double click. That's got my editing options now. So I can use these blue squares and resize. There's a little rotate button, so I can spin that. This is great for projects, great for writing stories, creating resources, and I can move that around. The other thing to point out along the right-hand side are your text editing tools. And we have a font called Lexend that should feature in everybody's fonts now because I've nagged the tech team and they finally listened to me. So just to explain, Lexend is a font that is designed specifically for people with dyslexia. Now, it is something to do with the weighting of the word, how it is set. There's also different variations. So you'll see Lexend Exa, there's slightly bigger gaps, and Lexend Zeta, there's even bigger gaps. So it just makes it a little bit easier for them to read. You do have the option to choose your own font. So you can go to more fonts, you can tick any of these, and that will then save that Open Sans will now feature in my list. So you can see there's Open Sans. So you can choose your own. Now we've also got the picture option, so we can add pictures. So it will by default open to your My Files. So these are, you can see that is the, I'm just going to drag that in just so you can see that is the video that we created earlier of our little bee. Now obviously that's not in keeping with our theme. So I'm going to do a web search instead. So this web search, and I can look for a keyword. I'm going to look for Titanic. I can drag these pictures in, so there's lots of lovely pictures. Oh, look, that's what I was talking about. That's what I can see from my window at the moment. It's literally my view. So we can resize these the same as we did with our text. We can rotate them. If you would like them at a jaunty angle, you can. And there we go. Okay. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to add some sound, because I think sound is a really good part of presentation. And we can do that through the multimedia tool, which is here. So we can record sound, the Titanic, and I can add that to page as a sound button. So there we go. So that will play back the Titanic. And there you go. Hopefully you heard that. I don't know if that was just in my ear or everyone's. And there we go. So that is the very basics of J2E5. I am planning to delve a little deeper into J2E5 in session 3. In fact, we've got a fantastic lesson. So we are doing what we call live lessons through YouTube, and we've got one recorded. So I'm going to show you that shortly. That will run you through how to create a multi-page hyperlinking J2E5 file with your P6s and P7s. Very precise. Fantastic lesson. So I will showcase that to you towards the end of the session. Now, the last thing I'm going to point you in the direction of before signposting all the help is the library. So this is brand new. I say brand new. We released this in June 2022. So it is relatively brand new for us. And we were always very anti pre-made content. But actually, this has probably been one of the most successful things that we've ever done. So this is teacher-made content. The majority of it is made by the team, so you'll notice a lot of our names will be on them. And it is pre-made content that you can just use with your students straight away. So the library is found here. We can open that up. There's about 15, there's more than 1,500. I think we're working towards 1,600 resources now. And we're adding to them all the time, generally about 40 a month at least, depending on how bored we are. So over the summer, there's been quite a lot made. Whilst you've all been off, we've all been typing away, making resources. So you can search for anything. So for example, let's look for writing. So that will bring up a whole load of particular resources that you can use. So there are writing frames, there's handwriting activities, writing directions, actual handwriting. So when you find a resource that you like, I'm just going to unstar that. So this is a resource by Mrs. Wilkes, who's on our team, it's Rachel. And it is created in JIT. So this is a fantastic resource for your younger students and to have up on your whiteboard, and they can do some mark making, which obviously with a trackpad is not quite as easy as with a whiteboard. And then you can save that as a piece of work. So I'm going to leave. So the resources will have sort of instructions for the students and potentially some student notes. There may be some teacher attachments. So that might be success criteria, marking sheets, how-to videos. So there's lots and lots of different bits of content. If you like it, you can star it. So what that will do is it will save it in your liked resources. So it means that you can access that content really quickly and easily and share with your students. Now, students will only have access to any content that's been shared with them. So by default, when they open up the library, it will be empty if you're not using it. Okay. Now, for students to use it, so for example, I'm going to use this internet safety rules, you have to share it. So I'm going to click share. I'm going to, there we go, highlight. I'm going to untick class 1. You're going to highlight your class that you want to share it with and then click OK. So that now is accessible for my students. So I'm going to open up Lottie. This is Lottie's account. She opens up the library. And there is that internet safety activity that I've just shared. So it's the most recently shared activities that will come first. And they will remain accessible until we remove permission. And to remove permission or remove sharing access, all you do is just unhighlight it. So go to share, untick that class, and that whole class has no access to that particular resource. So that is fantastic. Please have a look. There's loads. Titanic database searching. We've got maths, writing, PSHE, citizenship, e-safety, internet. We've got the lot. Okay. And in fact, if there are any resources that you think should be in there and aren't, please let us know. So email us. I'm going to give you some email information, and we'd really like to hear about that. Right. I'm almost done. So just to reiterate to you, the help desk is available. So that is from the help tile on your Launchpad. If you want to know more about J2E5, for example, type in keyword J2E5 and that will bring up videos for you. If you want to know more about JIT Paint, it will showcase videos. So that's one option. The other option that is fairly new is our YouTube channel. So we relaunched this in, I think, April or May time. It's been reinvigorated. There's lots of content on there. And it is called, I'm just going to stop the autoplay. It's called Just2Easy TV. And it's full of videos. So, and this is what I was talking about earlier, we are launching it again this year. So these were 2 sort of trial activities. These are live lessons, so it's a bit of a new concept for us and a lot of our partners. It's a new concept for them. So I will be delivering lessons for your students. So the idea is you log in to a certain time. And in fact, we've got one on the 26th of September. And we'll be doing creating all about me files using JIT Paint and Write. Okay, so that is one that's coming up. They will all be listed here. We will advertise them through social media as well. But these are pre-recorded ones. So this was a J2E5. So just to show you, I have to listen to my own voice, unfortunately.
Oh, they're at the bottom here.
So I will teach your class.
These are our paid.
There you go. So I will teach your class for you. So the idea is you have that up on your whiteboard, you and your class follow along. So you upskill yourself whilst also teaching your children at the same time. So I do, in the description, I do tell you which age group it's aimed at. So this is definitely a P6, P7 activity. And we go through exactly what skills you want them to achieve and potentially what you need to do before those sessions happen. Now, once that's recorded, it does stay in YouTube, but as well as that, we've added it into the library with all the wraparound content. So I've added it into the library with the lesson plan, with the success criteria, with the research planning sheets. So everything you need to deliver that content is in the library under live lesson, I think. So have a look. Okay. Then lastly, if you have any issues, please stay in touch with us. support@j2e.com. Generally, that's if you have any technical issues. If it's educational issues, if you need support with anything, they will forward it to me and the ed team, so not a problem. Now, lastly, training for 2023. I've got 2 minutes. I'm almost done, I promise. The Aberdeenshire sessions. Session 2 is coming up on the 31st of August. That's next Thursday, 4 till 5. Again, that's going to be recorded, so don't worry if you miss it. Session 3, I'm going to be honest, haven't massively planned it yet, but the loose plan is JIT mix, data, coding, and going into J2E5 in a bit more depth. And that is on the 5th of September, 4 till 5. And finally, our central training. So we have redesigned this completely. We used to be a little bit ad hoc and just advertise things as and when requested. But we're doing it a little bit, we're trying to be a bit more organised is what we're trying to be. We are delivering 30 different sessions this academic year. So that's roughly 3 a month. So what we have done, and it is available through just2easy.com/training. So maybe Jim or Julia could just pop that in the chat for me. That'd be very useful. just2easy.com/training. So what we've done is we've devised 3 separate strands: beginner, intermediate, advanced. That's not to say you can't mix and match. You absolutely can, but we're doing beginner sessions. These are very similar to the sessions that we're delivering for Aberdeenshire, so I would probably avoid these. Intermediate, these are focused on the tools. So we do a JIT session, a J2E5 session, data session, coding session. These will be linked into the live lessons as well. And then the advanced session, so that's linking into curriculum. So you can click on any of these. It's not going to work. Oh, it is. There we go. And you can book on those, and they're free to anyone, absolutely free. So I am done chatting. Just to highlight, I would love if you could give some feedback. So I'm just going to pop this in the chat for everyone. There we go. So I'll pop that feedback form. If you don't get a chance today, then Julia will forward you that code in your email and chase you up. So please give us some feedback. And then we are on Facebook, and we're also on, I should change this, we're on X, formerly known as Twitter. So please give us a like, follow, subscribe, tweet, any of the above. So thank you very much for listening. We're not going to do that. We're going to scroll. We're going to stop scrolling. We're going to stop sharing. I've just messed it all up. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope it's been useful, and I hope you will come and join us for session 2 next week.
Thanks so much for all that, Nikki. we have popped the link to the Just2Easy training into the chat, but also our LoveLearning. It's almost like an overarching site that we've created where you can get to different pages from there. So if you're looking for our CLPL offer, then just click on that and then you'll find a tab for CLPL and you can click on there. And within that, you can also access the Just2Easy Just2Easy training webinar site and their YouTube channel and so on. But also if you're wanting to look for other things, there's our lending library, there's the DPIAs, the transition, our YouTube channel as well. So it's maybe something handy that you want to put into your favourites bar. So sorry for that plug there, Nikki, for our own site.
No,
but I thought I'd get it in there too. We did have a question from Laurie. I'm thinking that's you, Miss Mackie. And she asks, in J2E5, can pupils all work on the same file and make live changes?
Yes.
Or does it make their own?
Okay. It is a bit messy. I've seen that response. It is a little bit messy. Absolutely can do it. And in fact, I will show it very quickly before anybody heads off. Or, I mean, if you need to head off, then absolutely feel free. So in my J2E5 file, what I can do, if I save this, so just to test 100 as an example, I've got this button. This will take me to the share button. Again, this can be done through the My Files area that we looked at earlier. Now, what you need to do at this point is just change it to a collaborative document. So instead of a worksheet, collaborative. And you can then add pupils into that. So we could say, for example, we're going to have Ellie working on that, and I'll try and find another pupil. I haven't got many, and Lottie. So I've set them up as a small group. Now both of them can work within that collaborative document. So there you go. I would just keep the numbers of students working on that to a minimum where possible. The more students you get, the messier it gets, unfortunately. And I would try and sort of stay within that document. I wouldn't remove yourself from the sharing permissions. What am I doing? There we go, going back here. So I hope that's answered that question. I will go into that a little bit more detail in session 3 on how to sort of delve into J2E5 a bit more. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. There's been lots of questions as well about CMIS and getting the pupils in. Jim and I will send out some information about that tomorrow because we weren't able to attach anything in the chat for some reason, but we'll get that sent out to schools, and it's just a step-by-step guide on how to move the classes on. So all your pupils will be able to access this already, but they might be in whatever classes your admin or clerical had set them up for last year. So they might not necessarily be in the right classes. So it's worth checking that. But you can all get into Just2Easy just now, and you could actually go into your dashboard area and check and see how your classes are sitting just now, and see if admin need to do anything, because you might find that you don't actually have to do anything, and you don't have to get your admin to change those classes at all, but it's worth checking. Okay, but Jim and I will get that sent out to you tomorrow. So I think that's everything. Like Nikki said, we've got another session next week. We'll be looking at the parent portal. There's been some questions about profiling and everything as well. So Nikki will show you how to use the parent portal, how to set the parents up on that so that they can access the pupil files, access the blog as well. I'm assuming you'll go over the blog, J2
Yes,
Bloggy too, and that's your way of communicating to parents. So we'll leave it there just now, I think, unless there's any other questions people want to jump in with. You know where to find me or Jim anyway, so you can always just send us an email, and if we don't know, we're going to ask Nikki. So thanks very much everyone for attending, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.